Welcome everyone. This series of videos is about creating a lab, um, specifically using Dacentec and creating a Windows Server 2016 data center Hyper-V server. So what I've done is I've shipped my 1U server to co-location with Dacentec. It's the same thing if you rented a server with them or whatever it may be. Now to start off, let's say there's no operating system on it, or you want an operating system on it, or maybe you want to clear things. So you start with the BIOS metadata and clear partitions. You have to go dedicated servers, which is probably your option, or colocation, which is my option. If you send them a server, click on your server, and then you go to provision. So you type in a host name here. This is what that's computer name. For the physical machine, right? And then you're going to do this, and you can't select any other options, but might as well leave that blank and put in a basic password. I don't think it requires one, but put one in. Now, after your machine has restarted, you should also at the same time ask for a KVM request, and they'll send you some information on how to connect. So, for example, this is what that looks like. Go to tickets archive. I created a ticket and I called it, it's really slow. Very simple. I called it KVM request and I said, hello, please provide KVM for my machine in co-location. And they sent me an IP, which when you click on it, here's the credentials, and then you click on this, you download a simple Java file. So you got to have Java installed, and well, you put in your credentials, and then you get to click here and download the remote Java session, which looks like this. Now, I've already gone ahead and provisioned my server with the clear BIOS metadata and clear partitions to start clean. And then because I would definitely want to start off with 2012 R2 data center with a GUI, but my machine didn't let me for some reason. So I started out with 2008 R2 data center full installation. Why? Because my machine only allows that. Is that the last version that my machine supports? No. I'm just going to install that to then, once I'm in the machine, I'm going to download Server 2016 ISO and then run it from inside the machine, and it's actually going to do an in-place upgrade. Okay, so I've already gone through the 2016 install. It restarted a couple times for me, did everything it needed to do to set up 2016, and bam, I went from 2008 R2 to Server 2016. Very first things you want to do when you first set up a server, no matter if you already have servers or whatever it may be. Let me take care of this. I haven't gotten there yet, but you either turn on or off remote desktop. I would say turn it on. You change the computer name. Change mine to Center Corp to correlate with what I want it to be. I set time zone, and I also set the IE enhanced security configuration to off for admins. Otherwise, Internet Explorer won't let you do anything. Other than that, I just do those things: time zone, Internet Explorer enhanced settings, and remote desktop, and change computer name. Then I want to install Hyper-V because I need to get my first firewall going. Now, as you notice, I don't have internet because when you, or at least when I went from 2008 to 2016, my internet settings didn't carry over. So right? So you, oops, I didn't want to click on that. So normally you don't see this. This is the one that's you know my machine has actual two Ethernet adapters, but only one of them is connected. And when I started off, I only had two. I'll tell you how I got the third one, but this one's directly connected physically, and you'd want to go into here and configure your public IP, your first usable public IP, because if you have a range of 5 IPs, you typically have 6 IPs, but 2 belong to the net, 1 belongs to the network, 1 belongs to the gateway. So when you come in here, now obviously all this stuff is disabled because that's what happens when you create an external switch. I've already done that when I installed Hyper-V. This is annoying with Dacentec's remote KVM thing. Let me see. So I installed Hyper-V, and one of the questions is, would you like to use this Ethernet adapter as an external switch? Yes, because one of these virtual machines is going to be a firewall that needs that external communication out to the internet. What does that look like? It looks like this. This is the default external virtual switch. I'm going to call this external. Now, if you have this checkbox enabled, that means that that external switch is being sent over to two adapters, a physical adapter on on um, on your machine, on your physical machine, and a virtual one. See, this one's where all my VMs are going to be connecting on, and this one's physically connected to my data center, but this one's not used. Like it's, as you can tell, it's not used. It's used in the background, but you can't come here and set IP settings. Don't touch any of this. The one that's actually in use on this machine is this one, because it basically nulls this one and hands it over to a virtual adapter so that it can be shared with the physical machine and virtual machines. Here is where I would set, after creating the external switch, this one's the one that I want to attach my public. This is a public IP. No, it doesn't look like it, but it is. And 2.198.7.233. So my first usable IP is 234. My gateway IP is going to be the IP right before that. So it's 233. And if I go, I'm just going to pick a random DNS server. This is Google. That just works. I'm going to change that later because I don't want to use Google's DNS. But if I'm correct, as you can see, I now have internet. Okay, but what happens is when I set up my firewall, I want my firewall to have .234, which is my first usable IP. I don't have to, but I want that one to have it. So being as I'm going to have a firewall directly connected to the internet, and my physical host is also directly connected to the internet. When I uncheck this, all traffic is going to flow from the data center's physical connection to this switch, and it's going to bypass the host when I uncheck that. So if you come back here, you'll see I have 3. One of these is virtual. That's where I have the IP configured. But I want all my traffic to flow through my firewall, including my host. I don't want my host to be directly published to the internet. So I uncheck this. Unchecking this is going to make all traffic go through this external adapter, all of it. As you can see, I'm going to say yes. And since I don't have a firewall, a virtual firewall, I have no internet connection. I'm going to refresh this. So you can see that should disappear. There you go. See? And I should still not be able to set an IP address here. Still. See? IPv4 disabled. Don't touch any of this. Do not manually check these boxes. Just don't do it. Okay. So now I want to install my virtual firewall, or if I had a virtual firewall, I would have internet coming from my firewall. But since I don't have a virtual firewall, I have to go back and check that box. I know it really doesn't make sense, but it will soon. Okay, now I have internet. Do I have internet? Come on, guy. No, that's a random IP address. So I gotta set it again. I can have internet and download my firewall. As long as you have ADNS configured, you're gonna get internet. So just use 8.8.8.8 just to get an internet and change it later. When I get my host domain join, because that's an option, I do domain join my actual physical host to a virtualized domain controller. It's a personal choice for security reasons. Not so good in terms of reliability, because if your domain controller is down, you can't get in. But I do it anyways. So I want to download PFSense. PFSense is the virtual firewall that I like to use because I'm an advanced user and I like the extra configuration settings. I like an ultra secure network. Mouse is really a pain in the butt with the Dacentec's remote management. But at least whether you have internet or not, you can still manage your machine. Let me download it from Austin, Texas. Version, latest version, architecture, AMD64, and an ISO installer because I'm going to attach it to a virtual machine. Let's download that guy. Should finish quick, so I'm going to create the virtual machine right away. Virtual machine, don't show me this again. I'm just going to call it J-PF. Default location, generation 2, just because I don't need to, I'm not going to talk about generation 1 and 2, but I make all my VMs in generation 2 just for the extra features it brings. Now this is Linux, The firewall is made of Linux, so I'm not going to use dynamic memory. I'm going to give it, uh, let's see, I don't need too much memory, but 3400 startup, that's just when it turns on. And after I create it, I have to go and set again the memory so that it's always using what I give it. And yeah, I'm gonna create a, what is it gonna be 20 gigs or 30 gigs. It's just a firewall. Here I'm gonna select my ISO, which I think finished downloading. Yeah. Okay, that's not good. Okay. Oh, it's because it's probably in a zip file first. Yep, it's a Linux zip.gz. So I know a good program that'll open that. So zip.org. Okay, that's installed. Let's come here and extract it. Make a folder with the same name. Okay, now I should be able to find it in there. You know, I could I have internet and I have remote desktop turned on. I could use that instead. Let me double check. Yeah, remote desktop is enabled. So I don't have any ports configured yet. Change that. That's what it used to be. And we have connection. Just by enabling remote desktop here, you automatically get the firewall rule inside Windows. And since I'm directly connected to the internet, I directly remote it in. Click finish here. Now it's a Linux machine, so it takes a little bit extra legwork. You always have to set the processors. There's no automatic for that. I have heavy traffic, so I'm going to give it 4 cores. And no dynamic memory, good. Hard drive. Um, I kind of wanted to set to a fixed size, but I don't think that matters. I typically like to turn on TPM for all virtual machines. Um, Now, a common thing that's not checked in the standard Hyper-V settings, you want to always use enhanced session mode. Otherwise you don't get clipboard. Everyone wants clipboard in between virtual machines and stuff. So, let me double check the boot order. Boot to DVDs already set. Okay. Why is it doing Pixie boot? Escape. Yeah, I'm gonna do some updates while this happens, just to save time on that. Okay, why is it not booting? It's really not detecting the ISO. Why? It could be because I'm using generation 2. Just saying, could be. This is Linux, so that may not work. Give it a different name. Generation 1, 3400. Give it that external switch. Give it 30 gigs, just in case. Install from that ISO. And I want to give it 4 cores, and there's no TPM on generation 1. 4 cores. Another thing, actually, before I even turn it on, I want to create some local networks. I'm going to create them as private. Because I don't need them shared with the host just yet, or at all, actually. One. And so I can do this ahead of time. Private and 2. Also, DMC. So private networks are only visible by virtual machines, by the way. So why am I doing this now? So that I can modify my firewall. My firewall only has one connection out to the internet. So nothing can get internet from that unless I give it more adapters. 3, 4. So this one, first one on the list, I always, well actually the first one always should be an external, the next one the LAN one. It makes it easier when you're configuring this inside of, uh-oh, I made a mistake. Call this LAN 2. If you do things in order, they show up in order when you're configuring the firewall. So just do these in order. It's easier. And then DMC1 and DMC2. Because each adapter on the firewall, on this, imagine this is a physical machine or a physical router like the one that you have at home. You have your external, which is that yellow plug, and then you have 4 connections where you connect your PlayStation and laptop and things like that. So each one of these is going to be a network, actually. We're going to set up individual DHCP and DNS on each one of these. And external, we're going to put the public IP. So now that my firewall has all the adapters, aka networks, I'm going to fire it up. I give it 4 cores. Yep. There we go. Select boot image. I don't know. I've never seen that before. Although I've set this up like 20 times. We're coming up on 30 minutes, but I'm going to keep going and you guys can take a break. But once this finishes, I'm going to show you the your initial setup of PFSense. Okay, here we are. PF installer. Yes, I agree. I want to install. Yes, press enter. Continue with default keyboard stuff. Automatically set up hard drive. Sure. Let's see if it works. Sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't work, I don't know what to tell you. So I hope it works. If it doesn't work, you may want to try a non-dynamic disk. By default, Hyper-V uses dynamic disks, which means it'll use whatever storage. If you have a disk of 20 gigs and you're only using 10, you actually have 10 gigs used off of your actual hard drive, but the rest is not used. So you can have another VM taking up the other 10 gigs. I mean, just saying, if that makes any sense. Installation's finished. Would you like to open a shell in the new system and make final manual modifications? Uh, nope, I don't want to make any changes in there. Yes, let's go ahead and jump into PFSense. Why don't we? So at this point, I don't want to boot into PFSense. So I'm going to eject the DVD and reset it. Because it's already installed, now it just needs to be configured. There we go. PFSense has booted. And you don't really do much from the actual VM itself other than do initial configurations so that you can get the control panel working. Once you do your initial configurations, you can open up a web browser and go to the IP of the machine, and that'll give you the control panel. Default user is admin, and password is whatever you set it from here. So welcome to the setup, valid interfaces. There's all my interfaces I added, 5, including HN0, which is the external. This is my first LAN, second LAN, first DMZ, second DMZ. Do VLANs need to be set up? No, I don't need VLANs. I don't want to set them up. Which one of these interfaces is WAN? The first one. So let's put HN0. See, there's a chart right up here, and it's also telling you right over here. So that's my WAN. Enter the LAN interface. So that's going to be HN1 because we did things in order. Enter the optional. I'm going to say optional is going to be my second LAN, so HN2. Oh, there's an optional 2 as well. So, all right, HN3 and optional 3, sure, HN4. So that's all my LANs and all my DMZs. Obviously, you can rename these instead of OPT1 and 2, 3. You can change their names to LAN2 and DMZ1, DMZ2. Do you want to proceed? Sure, it all looks great. So my IP address that I'm currently using on my physical machine is a public IP. I want to give that public IP to the firewall and make all traffic go through the firewall. So I'm going to have to fall back to the IP KVM, you know, the little Java remote desktop thing like this, because I'm going to take myself offline to give my firewall internet. I don't want to be directly connected to the internet on my main host. I've been hacked before. I've seen many other people get hacked before. It's not fun. All right, so here it says it's assigned to the LAN, an IP address, and that means that this machine. All right, so let's actually. All right, yeah, we're gonna have to go offline here. So I'm gonna go to my virtual switch. I'm gonna go to external. Now this switches the internet from the local host over to, let me just double check it's configured correctly. Yeah, see, external is connected here. So this will still get internet, but my host, my physical machine that we're looking at right now, will get disconnected. Yes, you will get disconnected. Yes, I know that. As you can see, it's about to time out and say, oh, you've been disconnected. Because we've got to configure now internet settings on the firewall and then port forward rules so I can reconnect with remote desktop. Yep, I have to do that now. How? Well, through this way. Set interface IP addresses. So I want to set my WAN so that that has internet. And we'll see what else needs to be done. Oops. Hand in the butt. So it seems that's not responding. I want to restart it. I'll just reconnect. So, come on. Not responding. So we'll just reset it. Now remember, Dacentec does not use DHCP servers, so you can't just automatically get internet. You have to set your WAN adapter with the correct public IP. This part I have to carry over from the KVM side. So I've got a couple minutes left until I've got to stop this session and start another one. Let's hope this hurries up. Okay, let's see if it works this time. Yes, press 2 to set IP address. I'm going to press 1 for WAN. See how it will set to DHCP? It's never going to get an IP that way. Do I want to set up IPv4 address WAN interface via DHCP? No, because there's no DHCP. What's the new WAN IP address? That's my first usable public IP, 234. What's my subnet? Well, this is your public IP subnet. It's not going to be /24 like the 255.255.255.0. This is typically /29 or /28 or /30. If you have if they told you you have 5 IPs, it's a /29. For a LAN, wait, actually, for WAN, enter new. Okay, I did that. For a LAN, press enter for none. For WAN, enter new. Oh, yeah, it's asking for the gateway address for the WAN, which is 192.168.7.233. It's the IP address before the first usable. Configure IPv6 on the WAN interface via DHCP? No, totally not. Enter the new IPv6 address. I'm going to press enter for none because I'm not using IPv6 on my WAN. No, sir. Do you want to revert HTTP as the web configurated protocol? I'm going to put no because I want to keep it as HTTPS. There's certain reasons why it asks that, but I'm not getting into that. Okay, so I think I may have said something incorrectly. So this, I want to make my, like I want my physical machine to be part of that network and be connected to the VMs as well. So this one I'm going to make internal. This is the only one that needs to be internal because I want my physical machine to get internet from the firewall. So I have to do that. So I'm going to press OK. And there we go. My physical machine now has internet coming from the firewall. As you can see, I will bring up my Ethernet adapters. Oh, that's not it. And now what looks like what I had before, it's not actually the same adapter. Now that's an internal adapter instead of an external adapter. See how it says LAN 1? So I'm going to have other virtual machines also connected on LAN 1. And so now my host can communicate with those machines. And my firewall is getting direct internet. Nothing else is getting direct internet. So now I'm fully protected by my firewall. So from here on, I would go configure stuff on my firewall, like port forwarding for remote desktop, and also change some of those DHCP settings. It told me that this was the IP it configured. Just go ahead and obviously the cert's not going to match, so just continue to this website, put in admin, and I think PFSense is the default password. Oh yeah, it is. That's the default password. Make sure you change that, because that is going to get hacked too. Global support. I don't need global support. I am the support. Primary DNS server. For now, I'm going to put 8.8.8.8. I'm going to change this later. SDD O. Yep. Change this to -6. I think that's the right option, I think, for central. My WAN is going to be static, yes. Can't stand this mouse. Here's my settings, gateway, the IP. This is basic configuration that you're going to have to go through. if using PFSense. If you're using something else, you also have to go through this. But it's going to look different if you're using something else. Sorry for wasting your time with this mouse bug issue. LAN IP address, I actually want that to be instead 10.0.0.1. That's my first LAN. And yeah, /24, which means 255.255.255.0. Admin password, you guys can't see this. But now I've set my default admin password and reload PFSense with the changes. Alright, now let's create a firewall rule for remote desktop. I've got to set a static IP on my host because my host is what I want to connect to. I don't want to ever touch this adapter. It basically doesn't exist. Just remember, it doesn't have any of the IPv4 stuff attached to it. That's being emulated for the external switch. Here on the internal adapter, I'll set this to 255.255.255.0, which is /24, and this is going to be that IP address, the LAN IP of the firewall. Also the same thing for now. When I domain join this, this is going to be the IP address of the primary domain controller. Let me save that. Great. Great, I have internet. Now I can't connect to that address anymore. I have to connect to this one because I changed it. Remember? Admin. Absolutely no commercial distribution is allowed. Okay, firewall. NAT. Okay. From when RDP uses UDP, so make sure you have both options. And from the WAN address, which is .234, that's fine. Destination port, I'm going to make the external port 5050 so that when people are port scanning me, hackers, in other words, they're not seeing that I have 3389 open. So the request is going to come in on 5050, and then it's going to be natted to 10.0.5, and then also redirected to 3389. So on the outside, it looks like 5050, and then when I connect on the remote session, I'm going to specify, IP colon 5050. And on the outside, it connects to there, but on the inside, the firewall redirects it to 3389, which is what the machine is listening on. And if I'm lucky enough to get down to save this, I want to give a description, RDPs. Jeez. Host. Okay, mouse sucks. And once I save this and apply it, won't work until I apply it, then I can remote desktop Net 5050. See, bam. And now if I use the right credentials, oh, oh, I'm not domain joined, so that's not going to work. I need hostname backslash, and I have to change the admin account. I cannot leave that as administrator. That's a very bad security practice. Straight to, really? I guess I had the password wrong this whole time. Alright, no more KVM. I'm set. My lab is set from here on. It's creating a domain and extra stuff. So I hope you liked my video. Saving that password in case I get hacked. No autocomplete. Okay, remember, any machine that has remote desktop published to the world, make sure it's ultra secure. And this is my main computer, my physical host, so I wanna secure it as much as possible. Hope you guys like my video. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.